So the first thing I want to explain is how this asylum system actually works. The British state does not house asylum seekers. It does not own asylum housing. This is a for-profit private industry. The government is paying private contractors to house asylum seekers. It uses three main contractors: Mears, Serco and Clear Springs. In just 1 year, 2025, the Home Office spent £27.8 billion just housing asylum seekers. That's £27 billion not spent building actual properties. We are renting beds from private contractors. Around £1 in every £6 the Home Office spends is now being burned on the asylum system. That is a legitimate reason for anger. £1 in every £6 of your taxpayer money is going straight into the hands of private contractors who have no problem trafficking humans into the country just so they can lock them up. That's not hyperbole. That is literally what's happening. The National Audit Office has now predicted that spending on asylum provisions is now going to triple over the next decade. Let's be clear. That is not because there's loads more asylum seekers. It is because this private industry wants to expand to make more money for its shareholders. This is structural capture. These companies get paid by the British state anywhere between £17,000 and £41,000 per person per year. Mears Group holds a monopoly contract for all asylum accommodation in Northern Ireland, the north of Ireland. They extract a 17% profit margin in this region. This region is their highest financial return anywhere in the UK. In their March 2026 financial declarations to shareholders, they reported £370 million in revenue from the asylum service contracts for just last year alone. On the 1st of April, they then used that taxpayer money to launch a £20 million share buyback scheme. A share buyback is when a company uses its profits to buy back more of its shares, which shrinks the amount of shares available on the public market, making the remaining shares scarcer, which drives up the stock price. So, the state could build houses. This would create public jobs. It would bring revenue to the north, and then the north would own those assets, and anybody could live in them. An asylum might need it today, but you might need it tomorrow. But it doesn't. Instead, it gave a monopoly contract with no competitive bid to this private company that is floated on the London Stock Exchange. If you hold stock in a company and the company does well, you get a little bit of that profit sent to your bank account. It's called a dividend. On the 3rd of June, Mears Group met for its annual general meeting and passed Resolution 7. This vote locked in a 9.4% increase to their total dividend payout, raising it to £17 per share. That is Mears Group milking its government contract, pulling in £370 million in revenue last year, and then using that to increase the value of its own stock and pay out to its shareholders. So who gets paid when the asylum system pays out? Here is the list of Mears Group shareholders. Hauk und Eifauser Fund Services holds over £51 million in shares in Mears Group. This is a Luxembourg-domiciled fund administration company formerly owned by the Chinese conglomerate Fosun International. Fidelity Investments hold £44 million in Mears Group shares. Fidelity are the largest privately owned financial services firm in the world. They manage over $5 trillion, mostly in American pensions. It says it holds Mears stock because it fits the small cap value screening criteria and that it does not make judgments about what the company does. Fidelity says it has an explicit policy. Fiduciary duty is to the portfolio, not the community the portfolio extracts from. Crystal clear. Shareholder Value Management AG holds £40 million in Mears Group stock. This is another German fund manager that manages about $1.5 billion of assets. Gresham House Asset Management Limited holds £30 million in Mears Group stock. This is the same investment company that is currently the largest commercial forestry manager on the island of Ireland via the Irish Strategic Forestry Fund, using 200 million of taxpayer money to buy more Irish agricultural land for its private investors. This is colonisation. The same investment firm that's buying all of the trees holds 30 million in asylum contracts in private prisons, enclosing both the land and the people on it. JP Morgan also holds £30 million in shares in this private asylum company. These are the people running the asylum system, not the government, not a human rights group, not an NGO. Fund managers. Fund managers who depersonalise the violence by hiding behind their fiduciary duty. Despite these companies having structural monopolies with no competition, the Home Office does not hold any centralised data on their performance. The most recent list that the Home Office seems to have on MERS is from 2019, so 7 years out of date. Home Office inspections of asylum accommodation have fallen 45% since 2018, and the Home Office could not confirm how many times property failed compliance standards between 2020 and 2023. It also could not confirm how many financial penalties had been applied to MERS for underperformance. A study by King's College London found that people seeking asylum in the UK were 5 times more likely to have mental health needs than the general population, and 61% of them had experienced severe mental illness. This system produces severe mental health illness by design. The hostile environment policy, the no recourse to public funds rules, the prohibition on working, the institutional accommodation with no autonomy, all of these create mental health stress. These are all a direct result of Home Office policy. This system selects people from active conflict zones, houses them in conditions that the Royal College of Psychiatrists call clinically harmful, prohibits them from working, integrating or accessing mainstream services, keeps them deliberately in that condition for years because the backlog is commercially profitable for them, and then throws them out with no notice in an unrecorded process. Then the media acts shocked when violence occurs.